everybody for coming to the meeting, to Justice and Memory Project team meeting today. We have been meeting, this team has been meeting for about 2.5 years. The mayor assembled this team to work toward avenues of atonement outlined in the Leonardtown Resolution. So for, like I say, for 2.5 years, we have been working to implement implement the resolve in the resolution. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and take a moment of silence, as we always do, for those who have passed on, the Leonardtown residents that have passed on. Thank you. Stephanie Raines is here, and she's going to take us through a process on the public art and the memorial that will be placed on Leonardtown Lane on the right of it. Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm Stephanie Raines, the Arts Administrator for Athens-Clarke County, and we've been meeting, in a small group to talk through this and the process. And I just thought I'd bring the rest of the AJMP up to date. So I wanted to share this as being some of the things that we are considering. One thing to know is that Athens-Clarke County has a policy that when we do a capital project of art, the art must last 25 years. So we ask artists for a maintenance plan, and that is part of what we build into the calls and the kind of art that exists. And so just to hold that in mind, because one of the things that we were thinking about is we want to make sure that we create and then we create a site that is going to be relevant to people in 5 years and 10 years and on through, and that we create a site that we can, take good care of over that period of time. So just something that we've been talking about. We've also discussed that we want to create a site that encourages people to visit over and over again, much like people have been revisiting Leonardtown Lane with the new signage and how from that unveiling of the new street sign. And we also want to have it feel like a destination, a place that people from who are visiting to Athens will want to go and see the monument and see the walk of recognition. So also we wanted to have evidence that Leonardtown's history was there, and that people feel like, oh, I'm standing here and I'm connected to the fact that this place was a community and there were homes and people here. And that it also reflects the work of the Athens Justice and Memory Project. We also consider the fact that it's this work that we're doing together sets an example for other communities to reconcile and to do work that they need to do to reconcile their histories with the current day and to make those things as right as they can. So we acknowledge that we understand other people are paying attention to the work that we are doing here, and to inspire future generations of people not to repeat these kinds of actions, that they would learn from this and have that sense of knowledge from visiting this site. And also, we've been talking a lot about considering who the audience is, who will come and see this site, who will come and visit, and what will that experience be. So a lot of that will start to come into shape when we see what artists eventually, when we get through the art process, when those proposals, you'll hear me talk more about this when we get to that part, because it'll be like, what will it feel like to stand in front of this thing? Is it tall? Is it wide? How does my body feel in relation to it is one of the things that we're considering. And also thinking about who will walk by this daily, how will people drive to experience it? Who will visit the site? And how will that, in thinking about the audience for the walk of recognition. Next slide. And then also just, I kind of touched on this a little bit in conversation, but thinking about the Walk of Recognition as being a site on Leonardtown Lane that has a work of art, has signage on that site, and that signage has a way for you to kind of go from the sign to a virtual space, a website perhaps, or it could be an app or another repository of information, so that each one of these things, if there's 3 things here, they each have a job, right? And so we trying to determine and talk about how the art's job is to help us connect to our feelings and emotions, right? It's symbolic or non-literal, and it helps us connect with our internal understanding, and it makes us feel things when we look at it. we're in its presence. And it gives the viewers space for acknowledgement, apology, and atonement. It creates like almost a sacred psychological space, right? For people to appreciate what has transpired here. That's what art is capable of and what we are asking artists to do when we're putting this call out. And then there will be interpretive signage in proximity to this art. And that signage will help give context. Why is this here? If, let's say, you just landed on Earth, you've never been here before, why is this object of art here? And that will tell you things about the history of the site. And we will do that in the signage through visuals. It might be a map, it might be imagery, and also through text. And it will offer context, like why is this sign, why is this work here? That answers the why here question. And also it gives a visual identity to the project. So that way, if there is, like, say, for instance, a QR code on the signage somewhere, and there's a color scheme and a common font that we've just, visually done the work on the interpretive signage, when you jump off that through the QR code to a website or this external archive, it matches that. You're like, oh, these things go together. I understand the continuity of these things visually. And that could be external resources, that it could include audio, it could include video, it could have archives, which is a thing we can update over time. People could add to it. It could be something that has it's a lifespan, right? And then also we can use that website to collect data. We can see where people arrived at that website. We can kind of track that information, as well as invite people to give feedback. Do they want to fill out a survey? Do they have things they want to say? Or it gives people a place to go and have more information. So if you imagine the site having sort of these three jobs happening at the site, so that the art doesn't have to carry all of this other contextual and visual historical mapping information, right? The art can do the part where it helps us feel connected and gives us solemnity and a seriousness to the site. And then the signs tell the story of what happened in the history. And then the website provides additional and more information and helps carry you into more deeper ways of understanding and connecting. And then some of the themes that we have arrived at around the artwork, I also, I want to think about the fact that a lot of the work that we do here in Athens-Clarke County in our public art program, often the artwork is triggered by a capital project, and 1% of that goes to public art. So often it's informed by the site or the people who are going to be using it, and that's sort of what shapes the kind of art. So in this is very different from that. We're talking about your lived experience. We're talking about historical event. So kind of arriving at what are the themes that we want the artist to sort of pick up on, because there are many, many things that you can process through. So erasure and the pain of that erasure, injustice, the displacement, the 50 families and the descendants, the Lennon Town's community resilience, that after all this time, people are still here, still talking about it, still fighting for acknowledgement and visibility. And then also the concepts around urban renewal and the turbulence of the 1960s and 70s. So those are just these are big themes. You're not gonna like literally see this necessarily in the art, but it's sort of a scope of the sense of what we're looking for in the work of art. And then some of where we're at with some of the next steps. This is kind of where I'm at right now. I'm working on finalizing the call. So putting together like, what do the words say that artists will read in the call? And I'm working on that with my colleague who's our public art coordinator to help shape that and all of the extra information that artists will need about how they will respond to that call. And then we're working on where we will post the call and strategizing that. And then we'll also, another step that we'll be working on is gathering interpretive signage content. So that is creating like a space for us to collect photographs, maps, any kind of information that we would need designing the sign would be important to have, so that the sign's accurate and it tells a full complex story. And then confirm the budget for the entire project, so we understand what we're spending on the art, what we're spending on the signage, all of the different pieces, the financial components. Developing a visual identity for the project, which it does definitely go in with the interpretive signage part, but that's something that we'll also work on assigning and dedicating time to. And then research all of our signage options to make a selection. So signage is there are a lot of ways you can do signage, but we also have to consider because it's on a street that cars drive down, there's all kinds of things about height, visibility, and there's also ways that we have to look at like what signs cost, the maintenance of signs, replacing them if they get damaged or vandalized. So there's a lot of different pieces that will have to go into the kind of art, but I'm going to be looking at providing like a menu of choices that we can arrive at and decide what is the best choice for the context of the interpretive signs we want to tell. I think that's all.
Let's go back to the art piece. So the art piece, I think the erasure is important. What do you think, Christine? So erasure is somewhere should be focused in there, like you got it. I think that's fine, the theme of it under, when you put that out there, the artist should know that the erasure of this amount of time was recorded.
Right.
And the pain that we suffered, somehow that could be captured. So
What you say, you want to put more emphasis on erasure or?
no, I'm just saying that when they, this should be captured somewhere, the theme of the art should include something like that, the erasure, the pain, the families.
Okay.
One thing.
Now, those
Understand with the,
those are very important.
yeah,
Erasure, pain.
Yeah.
Injustice and placement, yeah.
But,
A lot of emphasis.
but one thing I think I think it needs to, capture the children, the happiness of us as children. I know we have families up there, but I think as children, we were so happy that it needs to sort of include that.
So that is something that is concept we might get at with talking about what was erased, right? Erasure means there was something there and then it was completely wiped away.
Yeah.
So that could be part of like a more full picture of the life in Lebanon,
life.
right? The way that people lived and the families and their interactions and the pace of life there. And that
Yeah,
children
capture that.
played and people had, and, had community and so that we understand more deeply what that erasure meant because we see what was removed, what
Yeah.
was displaced away.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask a question about the, I don't know what people can go and, I don't know.
Which one?
What do you do where you can,
The QR code.
yeah. I don't know.
Well, the QR code, basically, it brings it up. And then, someone could be talking about Leonardtown, you, I, or Bobby, I mean, somebody could be talking about.
Mhm.
And then to reinforce that there was a community.
I know, but
It wouldn't be on the artwork, it would be on the sign.
It will be the sign itself. And then if somebody wanted to know, okay, if I want to know about where to go to get more information, we would have a website that they could go to. It will send them to a website. And, because somebody might want to know and they want to do research on it. So all of that would be on the QR code, like
Mhm.
if you're at church, when they want you to put an example, if you will put QR code to pay. But it would be good to have the QR code up there, because it would say where, the history center is, because the history center is not gonna be over there, it's gonna be over here. You could give them different information.
so really, it's gonna be full of a whole bunch of things.
No, not a whole bunch of things, but a few things that we think is necessary to, continue on. It could talk about the Leonardtown quilt. It could talk about different things in there, we could include in there. We have to look at that and see what we want to include on the QR code.
Mhm.
It could have the apology that took place.
Mhm.
So we have different things in there that you couldn't get all that in a piece of art, but you could
Yeah.
have different things in there about the
QR.
apology, about the mosaic. So we have different things that we have done that you may not be able to put in there on the QR code. So it's different, but, it's a way, Christine, that things are going.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
It's not everything now. It's the way technology is going
Mhm.
with, public art, the QR codes are.
Mhm.
And if somebody wanna make a donation, this is where you make it. You gotta put that there. So people will know when to go make, if they wanna make a donation to the History Center.
Mm.
Or something, you can put it there and say, go here.
So it's almost like a third place. So standing on Town Lane, you would see the artwork and there would be a sign.
Mhm.
And then that sign would tell you through a QR code or another way to go to this third place. And this third
Mhm.
place lives on a computer and it's just like a website that is nicely designed and has information when you want to know, oh, here's the African American history trail in Athens and here's all the other points. And it can point to other places and help give a more in-depth view and scope of how Town was a part of Athens and connected to other African American communities throughout the city, like on the trail. And all these things are, all could be there. And it keeps the sign focused on the context of the site you're standing at and just about Town. And then this website can be about more things and it's designed so that it's cleaner and simpler, so that we can focus when we're standing on Town Lane, the art is there and the sign is there. And we'll get to that part later. We're really, the art is gonna come first, and then we'll start to focus on the sign. So it's an order of things that we'll get there as we move through this as a process.
So when you go back to the, art, so we talked about the, the, art. And some of this will be in the call that Stephanie is going to put out. We were just trying to capture in certain things, words. These not gonna be the exact words, but she's gonna put it out in a way where they can understand what the art is going to be about. So
Who's gonna keep the website up? I mean, how it's gonna be kept up?
I gotta work on that.
all that's gotta be worked on.
Yeah.
It's gonna be worked on, it's gonna be kept up.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we're not gonna be there to talk about it, so we gotta have a way where it can be, you have a website, somebody gotta go in and keep it up. So, Erasure, you see anything else that you would like on there?
Yeah, that covers a lot right there.
Mhm.
Just like,
What about you, Bobby?
I'm good.
You good? You think that you're okay, babe? So that's the theme of the art. And
Mhm.
like I said, Stephanie's gonna put her magic in there with the description that goes out to the artist, so they will know what they're supposed to be working on.
mhm.
So we're gonna ask artists to, when they respond, to show us other work you have done.
Yeah.
And then we'll make a selection from that, and then they will make something
Yeah, that's what I'm
specific
looking at.
around this theme. How that
Let me-
speaks to
Let
that.
me see some first, right?
Yeah, you will. We're gonna get there. I gotta tell them, I gotta give them a clue,
Hey,
right?
sure.
Bobby got to see it.
Yes, I'm Roy Broken, me, I got to see it.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
but some.
so she's gonna put her magic in the description of this art and it goes out. But that's descriptions within it, she's gonna write up.
Mhm.
And then she's gonna ask for, examples, right? And then.
And then from there, we'll look at all the examples and select a few of the artists that we think are kind of, working in the way that we find most intriguing and most interesting. And then we'll invite them to create a proposal, and then you'll have the literal thing they made just for this project to decide.
Decide if we want it or not.
But we have to give them in the description something to go on, that, so they kind of understand what we're looking for. And that they feel called to do this and they feel prepared to address these subjects. So we had to we had to kind of come up with some words that give them a sense of this. And there's a lot of resources out there. They can look up, Google will have all these articles and everything and information. So there's a lot of information. We'll have some available for them, but they'll also they can call and ask questions but they'll also have the chance to really do their research. and see how they respond.
And then the next piece was the signage.
And that we're gonna work on gathering the content and having some help. We're gonna bring some help in to help us shape the signage and what so that gives it historical context.
And the signage, she says it has to be there for 25 years, so whatever we put on there, you know, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, all people gonna see that.
Well, the art has to last 25 years. The signage, you know, has different lifespan. We can talk about that. But
Okay,
definitely the art,
is 25 years.
that's what
okay.
that's
Signage
our
will be
policy.
different,
Yeah,
okay.
signage has a little bit
Okay.
different. I don't know that we have a lifespan on signage, but typically, you know, we try to keep it, so we vet it, you know, to make sure that it's accurate and that it's, under people can read the text is big enough and all those kinds of things. And then there's the factors of having the signs near a roadway with cars, so it's gotta be safe, right? So I'm gonna work with all my colleagues within the government to make sure we arrive at all of those technical aspects.
Well, not hide the sign like they did.
The material that's included in that, the type of material and everything.
The type of material the sign's made of or the content of the sign.
Yeah, what it's made of.
I'm gonna give y'all choices. We're gonna look at all the options.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna, Dr. Epps and I are gonna work with having somebody help us kind of pull those options together so that we can give y'all some choices and we can talk about what that looks like and what it costs and
Right.
what the signage will look and feel like. So I've got some examples, so y'all be able to look at it.
Right.
We kind of want it to, you know, to speak to this context of the site, and it'll have this visual identity that we want to pull together, so it looks, you know, that it looks good.
Location.
We got that part. And how it's gonna look on that location.
You know,
Okay.
they actually, all of it is gonna, like you said earlier, it's gonna be interconnected. All of the three pieces are gonna be there. So we gotta make sure this one speaks to that one, but this piece is gonna be here too.
That makes sense
That
together.
makes sense together.
Yes.
So the whole flow, because if one person's looking at the art and then they go to the signs and then, you know, they're gonna move over to the information piece. So, which is, all of them are gonna be critical because
Yeah.
it's like taking a trip
Yeah.
back in memory lane. It's gotta make sense. You do this and you do this now. Where are they now?
Yeah.
Where can I go and find out all the other information? So we're gonna have all of that there.
Mhm.
So once we, and that. Okay, so that's gonna be trying to go in-house as best we can on the signage itself.
We're gonna look at all of our options that we have locally, and we're gonna look at that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Bobby, you all right?
Mhm.
Okay. And the next piece was I'm saying the information piece,
Well, the content gathering, all the interpretive
Yeah.
signage content, yep.
content piece, okay. So that is gonna be critical too, because we got so much more that we need to share than what's on the art piece and the signage. We're gonna do that with the information piece of content. Um. Anybody want to have any input?
No, I just, I'd like to see it. What they do.
Okay.
Things like that.
What is the timeline to go out on the art? What did we look at? I know we're not looking at it right now, but what's the general timeline when you probably put this out for the audit?
I think January would be probably, because the holidays tend to be, tricky time to put things out in the world so early in the new year. And then that sort of sets the pace for, it's out for 6 to 8 weeks. We receive calls back. We have selection panel, then we send the select people out. They get 2 weeks, sometimes 3,
Mhm.
and then they bring those back. So we look at the spring for making selections. And then, from there, it goes into the contracting phase within internally in the government, which has variable delivery times. So that depends. I can't speak to like what that will look like in the new year.
No, I was just trying to figure out, when will it go out?
I think the new year is what I'm looking at. And then while a lot of that's happening, right, like there's calls out there, it's being advertised, artists are working on their proposals, they're calling, asking questions, they're responding. We'll work on the signage and delivering the content. So I'm kind of prioritizing right now for me, the call for art. And then once we get that edited and sort of squared away and feel good about it, we put it out to the world and then we switch to signage and gathering information and what that looks like. So yeah. I just wanted, like, this is really a progress report to kind of show you where we're at with it and what our next steps are and how we're kind of pulling all these pieces together and how we'll do this and, at the same time, but while we're doing everything at once.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's good.
You have anything, Bobby?
No,
Okay, but thank you, Stephanie. Anybody else? Will we move on to Cameron, affordable housing? Thank you for that presentation.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good going.
Okay, cool. Tuesday, Mayor Commission received our recommendation for the, down payment, home rehab, recommendation. It's a little bit over, it's about $540,000 for home rehab in their proposal. That should fix about 12 houses. That's what's in their proposal. It's up to the Mayor and Commission to vote on that recommendation on November 7th, right downstairs. They did have some questions for us about the down payment assistance RFP that we're planning on re-releasing. They just wanted to know what we would do different. Some of the same questions that you all had last month regarding how we're gonna disseminate the RFP. We'll be sending out the answers to their question.
When you talk about you're talking about, you've gone from
Yes,
home repair,
yes,
okay, and that's gonna be voted on
November 7th,
7th.
along with our recommendation to re-release the RFP for down payment assistance.
So are you can speak to the re-release? Has anything been done to that differently or is it the same thing?
Well,
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm just.
oh yeah, so we're kind of working on some things as far as changing how the RFP looks itself, what it's asking for. I know we plan to reach out to some for-profit organizations.
Okay.
But that's all that I really have at this moment. I do know that the Mayor and Commission will vote whether to re-release it or not in that same November 7th, meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anything else? We basically wanted to get input to Stephanie so she could start going ahead
Right.
and work on the public art
Mhm.
piece. And it was critical that we talk about that today.
Mhm. Well, it's interesting. Let's see.
If there's nothing else, no more, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and say we can adjourn the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you all
Mhm.
for being here.